Hi everyone. We decided we were going to do an episode today on something that's been pretty much omnipresent for the past couple hundred years. And it's something that's frothy and feminine, and we see it really throughout various decades. And it is tulle, Tulle. We did a little bit of research, and what's interesting is tulle became popular in the early 1800s because they actually were able to create equipment to make it. Prior to that, it was handmade, like in the manner of lace. So you can only imagine how time-consuming it would be to create knots that would create hexagonal kind of beehive shape. So 1830s, it became a little bit more accessible. And then, lo and behold, Queen Victoria had a tulle wedding gown, and it was somewhat sheer and somewhat scandalous, but you don't say anything about that with the Queen, of course. But that began the popularity of tulle with bridal wear. So if we fast forward to the Moulin Rouge and can-can dancers, and you think of tulle as being a wonderful fabric because it's light, it's ethereal, it is something that unfortunately is quite flammable as well. And why I bring that up is when they started making tutus for ballerinas, women didn't wear things that were short, but it was quite scandalous actually in Paris because the skirt was ankle length, and women just didn't show their ankles back then. And as time progressed, the hems got shorter and shorter, and part of the reason was because the stage was lit with candlelight. And you know, you can imagine something that's light and airy is something that would not just catch on fire, but like erupt in flames. So when we did the research for this episode, there was a delineation between bobinette and tulle. And in all honesty, I am not 100% clear on which is which, because I've always used the word tulle. So that was kind of an education for me, and I will dig a little deeper so I don't use the incorrect word. But at the beginning of the 20th century, women wore really feminine, you know, floaty kind of garments, and there was a large mixture of embroidery, cotton embroidery, and tulle. Lawn dresses, garden dresses, and that actually carried into the 30s. I have one really good example of a 20s tulle embroidered dress, and this has a filet lace on the sleeve, which is a net lace as well, but it's completely different. It's much wider. What I love about the tulle is it's a natural fiber, so it cleans very easily, whereas you can be somewhat harsh on cleaning this. Silk you can't. And the embroidery on this is all hand done, so it is actually a very special 20s piece, and perfect for a bride, any of you out there. And you'll see that in that time period, you could buy yardage that was already embroidered. This one's machine embroidery with applique organza to create the pale lavender. But absolutely, positively, I could see a beautiful, romantic garden party dress made out of this fabric. I look for fabric like this because oftentimes when we buy pieces, they're not always in 100% perfect condition. So this allows me to replace the damage with pieces that are authentically from that time period. I also brought 100% cotton. This one is like an ecru color, like tea stained. What's wonderful about is the way this is made, it's hardy, even though it's It looks fragile. It's not. You don't want to walk across a field with barbed wire fence wearing this, but it's pretty hardy. So the 1920s, and then as we fast forward into the 40s and 50s, Dior used a lot of tulle for underpinnings in crinolines, and you get Schiaparelli used tulle as well. And we have, in the 1980s, Christian Lacroix used, I mean, oh my God, he used a lot of tulle. And we have some fabulous examples here. But the ultimate decade for tulle was the 1950s. This beautiful gown is Chantilly lace on the bodice, and then this extremely full tulle petticoat. And it's in beautiful condition. And this is a great example of alternating fabric with tulle to create texture. And once again, the full, you know that this is post 1947, which, you know, the new look. We get a lot of people coming in looking for prom dresses, and the traditional prom dresses from the time period are these kind of frothy confections, many times strapless, and once again with a mixture of lace with the tulle. It's as feminine, I think, as you can get as far as design. And then this wonderful piece is meant to accentuate the waist by blowing out the hips. So it'll give a woman an amazing figure. Then we included this piece, which is actually one of my favorites. It's layers, and the skirt looks like a tutu almost, but it has this illusion bodice where when you wear it, you almost think that the woman is nude except for this beading area. And it's extremely small, so I'm not sure we'll ever find anyone that will be able to fit this, but it is really a beautiful design. And then as we move along the decade, we have a few pieces that are 1980s, but we'll do this Yves Saint Laurent, which is late 70s, early 80s. What I love about this, it's mixed media. It is obviously ostrich feathers that are pom-poms, and the skirt and the bodice are tulle, and the cap sleeves are satin. And it's extremely small. It does not fit on this dress form. It's about a size 2. But you can see the layering. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of tulle underneath. This is also another one of my favorites. It's Christian Lacroix. It's pleated tulle, short in the front, long in the back. And there's this area where the tulle is scrunched and it just cascades. 2 places in the back and 2 places in the front. And it's an incredible red carpet dress. So hopefully we'll sell this to someone to wear to the Academy Awards. And then we have this is Vivienne Westwood, where she uses this striped silk and this, once again, explosion, multi-layers of tulle for the skirt and kind of decoration in the front. You know, the thing about tulle, which is so wonderful, is it allows you to play with its transparency. Designers can be really creative using that. The current designers that have used them, I can never say his name, Giambattista Valli and Victor and Rolf. Margiela's artisanal collection in 2017, they collaborated with this amazing artist named Benjamin Shine, and they created these profiles of people. And what was beautiful about using tulle is the more layers you add on, you create a shading, a darkness. So if it's just one layer, it's very basic. So you've got to see these faces, they're incredible. So many designers, even outside of the bridal world, are using tulle to this very day. And it's just such a wonderful material to work with because it's adaptable. This beautiful tulle gown, strapless, is by Oscar de la Renta, and they chose to do an overlay of what looks like chantilly lace, but it's actually embroidery. And it's classic. The tulle on this is actually made out of, I think, nylon. The earlier pieces are cotton. You'll find silk tulle with wedding veils. Silk tulle is really fragile, so unless it's a thick gauge, I would highly recommend you stay away from it, right? This feels like a cotton tulle. So the majority of the pieces post 40s are nylon or a blend tulle. But I prefer the cotton tulle because it's easier to launder and hardier, lasts a lot longer. I neglected to mention two other designers. One, Betsy Johnson, who uses tulle a lot. I mean, you just think of her personality, and she exemplifies tulle. But you know how film and TV can really impact fashion. When Rodarte did the costumes for Black Swan, there was an increase in the usage of tulle in contemporary fashion. So it ebbs and flows in terms of how much you see out there, but it's always out there. And it has been pretty much since the turn of the century. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe to our channel. So stay tuned because we're going to do a really awesome show off. I'll be back. So tulle is something that's used over and over again over the decades and centuries, but there are certain objects that have very short life in terms of popularity, and one of them is paper. And we did a little episode on the swinging 60s where we showed some of the paper dresses that I have in my collection. But what I didn't show is this amazing collection called First Edition London Poster Dress. And this collection consists of 5 images. This one is a poem by Allen Ginsberg. You can see it's never been taken out of its package. This one is the eye, and this also has never been taken out of the package. And then this one, someone opened just because I guess they wanted to see. It wasn't me. They wanted to see what it looked like, is the cat dress. And I'm a cat person, so this really speaks to me, but it's not something that, hang on, there. I don't want to steam it or iron it because I want to keep it in literally its original condition. And what's funny is this thing says, throw it away? Never. When you're finally tired of wearing it, why not? Cut open all the seams and hang it on your wall as a poster. So I guess that's where the name came from. Would be great to get the other 2 pieces so I have a complete collection. This is part of the first edition. I don't think I've ever seen a second edition. So, and I doubt that we will talk about flammable clothing. I doubt that we'll see a revival of paper dresses down the road. So that's it for this week's show off. A little bit of history and a lot of funky, fun craziness, which is what makes fashion so wonderful. That's it for now. Bye.